my favorite place. I loved walking along the row of stalls and having the different horses stick their heads over their doors to see me. Some of them wanted to be petted, some of them couldn't care less for attention, but they all wanted to see who was out there. Is that just like people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Animals are very similar in that way. Dark, warm colors filled the barn. The horses were brown or black. Some were kind of reddish, and some were the color of copper kettle. Piles of golden straw lay on the dusty gray floor, and the beams and walls of the old building looked like chocolate. Oh, so now we have, the author has really described that place that we know now is one of his favorite places to be. Knicker was up and about and very impatient about being fed when I got to his stall the next morning at 7. I didn't really mind. It felt good to be missed, even though I had only been gone for 10 hours. He was so excited to see me, it took him a few minutes to get focused on the bottle. I loved the soft feel of his fur and the way his little mane stuck straight up. His brown eyes were bright and soft, and they were always looking around, even when he was eating. If it was up to him, he'd take the bottle in his mouth and walk around so he could see everything. I knew he recognized me, and he liked seeing me. I was the only one he had ever nickered to. What does that confirm for us?
Nicker's a good name.
That Nicker's a good name because he nickers at him? Okay. And that he thinks Sean is his mom? Yeah, that he has imprinted that word that we learned? Every time I fed him, I spent extra time in his stall talking to him and petting him. Feeding him was the best part of the day. Why do you think that was?
Because he got to spend time with him.
Okay, he got to spend time with him. What else might there be?
He's acting like his mom. Like he's treating him like he wants to be treated right now.
Yeah, he's caring for him, really caring for him. And what does that do for a person? Have you ever cared for someone and had that person be appreciative of what you've done? Oh. How many of you babysit? Okay. And have you, those of you who babysit, do they, if they're little kids, do they come up to you and they want to be with you? They just love the fact that you're there? Yeah, they appreciate you taking care of them, and it does feel good. The only problem, what's that? The only problem was leaving him. He would strain against the stall door, stretching his little neck until his nose reached over the top, and he'd nicker at me all the way out of the barn. He sounded pathetic, like he was convinced he'd never see me again. I spent the early morning hours learning how to spread the manure in the garden. It was really disgusting driving a truck full of crap around it and dumping it in a thin layer all over. Even though I thought it was gross, I also knew it was important for the ranch to fertilize in the fall and to start getting the field ready for the spring crops. Without the manure, the crops wouldn't be as good. So even though I complained about my job, I did the best I could. Yes.
I think I'm making a prediction.
Okay.
I think he's after school he's gonna come out there and snicker and.
Okay, so he's going to continue even after his community service. Good prediction.
I think he's gonna start to live there.
Okay,
That's what I think.
and what gives you that impression?
Because his mama is so mean.
Okay. Yeah, good evidence for your prediction. Think though here, what lesson is he learning here when he talks about spreading the manure?
Even though he hates complaining, he's complaining about his job. At least it's a job, and at least it's getting done.
Okay, at least it's a job and it's getting done.
He's got nothing.
And he did the best.
He's got nothing else to
And he's
do.
doing the best he can.
He's doing, yes, and we've already talked about the fact that doing the best you can, no matter what it is a good feeling. What else is he learning? He's doing what? What's the job he's doing?
Manure.
Fertilizing.
Spread manure.
Yes,
He's
spreading
taking
manure.
care of the earth.
He's doing a crappy job.
Literally.
Literally a crappy job. But does it need to be done?
Dirt job, somebody's gotta do it.
Yes. Life has a lot of crap in it. And we gotta shovel it sometimes. It's true. And he says he understands this, that even though I thought it was gross, I also knew it was important.
If you have the proper tools and proper machinery, then it isn't as gross as
You're right. And that's a lot like life too. Because it's a good point. If you have a crappy job to do, it's hard, there's stuff that you can do to make it easier. Having the right tools, knowing And one of those things is education. Education gives you a tool to do a lot of different things that are hard. You can do it much easier if you've got an education that has given you those tools. But a lot of things, we just need to get the right tools and the right attitude, and then that hard, crappy job isn't as hard and crappy. But he says, I was really glad when Mr. H came to get me around 10:30 to give me a new job. I didn't even consider it work after he had explained it to me. Ooh, there's a good choice. That's the choice of attitude. He's chosen an attitude. It's not going to be work. Page 77. Mr. H wanted me to spend the rest of the morning with Knicker. He gave me a halter form and explained that it was really important for him to learn not to fear the halter. Teaching a horse not to fear the halter is an important part of breaking a horse, Sean. It may even be the most important part. If a horse fears the halter, he's difficult to catch and even more difficult to bridle. How do you think this relates to kids?
Oh, if you try to, if you say it's like, some kids get mad when they have to do a nap. You say it's nap time, and start running. Like I used to run around, like I'd run around my babysitter's house, keep staying away from her.
Okay. And how do you relate that as similar? What's
Don't run away from you.
If
You
what,
show
though?
them a bed while they're young, they don't scared of it. They're scared of it.
okay? So if you
Try
help,
new food.
okay, let's say let's draw on this analogy, because remember, we cannot ignore what our author has done for us in helping us understand that the colt is kind of like Sean, and the mare is kind of like his mom. So if you need to be kind and teach the colt how to use this really important thing, the halter is going to be important to him, and he needs to learn how to use that and not be afraid of it and not be angry with it. How does that relate to what you just said?
They need to put a muzzle on her from what I hear.
You put a muzzle on the mother.
She was telling you what
a halter was.
Okay, the halt. Oh, who's the halter? Okay, there's way too much going
I asked you when you
on.
were talking. Yeah, you did. You weren't talking. I didn't hear it. And why do I need one of those?
I didn't even consider it work after.
Oh, sure, you look with her.
I know what happens.
Okay, halter. What did you explain, Carly?
She didn't explain anything. You gave her a trick and she shut up.
Explain what is a halter?
Good.
A halter is something you put over a horse's mouth or nose to, like, yeah, you put it over its ears in order to pull it,
attach the
in order to like walk it. Now, if you want to ride it, you have to put a saddle on and a bridle. It's like a bit and everything, and yeah.
You can ride it with a bridle,
You can
but
ride
it's a lot harder.
with a bit. No.
Is
With
it the
the-
thing
you
with the
can-
bridle?
you- With a bridle and bit, or with the bit, right? But the bridle, you could still
Is the
you
baby-
could still leave.
Bit?
No, you
Bit?
could. Do we?
The bit?
Generally, no, because it's a lot harder. But you can't even put a bridle on if you can't even. I mean, the bit in the mouth if you don't even have a bridle on. So that getting that bridle on, getting them to be comfortable with it and not afraid of it, is the very first step. So let's go back to Nick, your idea, your example of taking a nap. The bridle is one of the most important things that a horse needs in order for their life with humans to go okay, so
Sleep
that
is
they
the
can
most
go where
important
they
thing.
need to. Yeah, sleep. You need to know how to get a good night's sleep and get a nap when you need a nap if you're way too
I'm not
tired.
allowed to take naps at home.
You're not, huh?
No.
Well, you're old enough that you shouldn't need a nap all the time.
My grandma
But
takes one every day.
yeah. Okay, so if let's go back to Nick's example. Nick's example. If somehow we could have gotten you at your daycare to like naps better, do you think you might have been more rested, been maybe because when we're rested, we're healthier, right? When we get enough sleep, and that those create habits. So you had a really good connection there that you made to Knicker and getting to be very familiar with the bridle or the halter. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, gotta find my place again. Oh, I was saying bridle when I meant halter, Carly. You could actually, ride a horse with just a halter, but it's very,
Have
very
you ever rode a
hard.
horse?
Have I? Yes. We used to own horses.
I rode
Where at?
a horse
Wisconsin?
the first time this summer. With my friend Sophia, she has 2 horses, one her and her sister. And it's out at the farm thing, and we were riding trails. And her horse, okay, so,
You had fun?
yeah.
Did you live on a farm in
She's
Wisconsin?
never ridden this other horse named Gracie. That was on her horse, and her sister was on her horse, like, her sister. And this horse, like, she was trying to get it to turn around, and it just went straight through these bushes, and she ended up ducking down like this.
Yeah. That happened to me one time and I didn't duck far enough and got knocked
What
off.
part of Wisconsin are you from?
Okay, we're gonna pick back up. Middle of 77. Why would a horse fear a halter? I asked. Well, it could be the first time he was haltered, it was an unpleasant experience. Or it could be that the halter rubbed him wrong and actually hurt him. There are many reasons that a horse, or any animal for that matter, learns fear. But we don't want Knicker fearing the halter. Usually we don't break foals to the halter until they're almost a year old because they just follow their mama. But Knicker doesn't have a mama to follow, so we need a way to get him to go from one place to another. He gave me a soft red nylon halter and explained how it went on the horse. He told me to use it like a brush all over Knicker's body and to practice putting it on and taking it off. Then he turned Knicker and me loose in a small paddock, for the morning. Knicker wanted to play, but I wanted to be serious. It finally dawned on me that if he thought the halter was fun, then he wouldn't think it was something to fear. So we played. Was that a good idea?
No, because it's a game.
It's like playtime. I'll put the halter on and play a game.
Okay, it could lead to that. It could lead to that. Let's see if it does. Or if, let's see if it leads to that, or if Sean is able to get him to do what he wants anyway. I put the halter on him, and then we played a weird game where that was kind of like tag. Then I'd take it off him again until he came up to get me. I'd put the halter back on, and we'd play tag again. When I got tired and ran out of breath, I'd just take the halter off and rub him with it all over. He didn't mind at all. In fact, a couple of times I caught him dozing. I knew he wasn't afraid of the halter, but I wasn't in any hurry to go tell Mr. H that I'd finished the job. Why was he not in any hurry?
Because he doesn't want to go spread manure again.
Yeah, it's much more fun playing with Knicker than spreading manure.
It's fun. It's fun.
Manure.
It means the same thing.
Manure. Little different
Manure.
pronunciation.
How do you say it?
It means
Manure.
the same time.
Manure.
That's how she.
I say manure. Manure. I don't know. Usually manure.
I
Northerners.
don't care.
Apple. I mean,
Ain't nobody gonna
tomato,
care.
tomato, that kind of thing. Besides, my stomach was rumbling, reminding me that lunch would be served soon. No need to leave Knicker until then. I wouldn't have time to start a new job until we were done eating. Sean! I turned around with a start. There was Mrs. Walker leaning against the paddock fence. Hey, Mrs. Walker, I said, walking over. Hey there yourself, she said, smiling. Who's this? Knicker had beat me to the fence and was nosing her, looking for a bottle. This is Knicker, I said. How old is he? He was born Monday night. Gee, she said softly. I could tell he was young, but I didn't know he was that young. She smiled at me. You two look like you're having fun out here. And I've told him several times that that's not allowed, Mr. H growled. Was he serious?
No.
No. Mrs. Walker turned around and laughed. How are you doing, Dave? I'm fine, he said as they hugged. I haven't seen you in quite some time. You're married now, right? Yes, she said, blushing a little. And we've got 2 fine boys. Oh, Michelle, that's fine, just fine. What are you predicting is the relationship here if they know each other well?
Friends.
He had
Friends?
her when he had her for community service or something. I don't know.
She could have done community service.
Perhaps when like 70.
I don't think
Jeez,
so.
I don't think that's gonna happen. He's like,
He'd be a
25.
he'd be a
It could.
Pedophile.
yeah.
Okay, I think my chin. Follow up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think my chin must have hit the ground during this little exchange. You two know each other? Mrs. Walker laughed again, and this time Mr. H joined in. Oh, yes, we know each other all right. I spent 3 summers working out here for some extra cash when I was in high school. Ah, now we know the relationship. Oh, I said lamely. It was the only thing I could think of to say. How do you know Sean? Mr. H asked. Well, Sean has the dubious distinction of being one of my 9th grade students. Really? What do you teach? English, she said, or she and I answered together. So what brings you down here, Michelle? Well, several things, actually. Okay, shoot. I was looking for Sean in-house today, and Dr. Bushell told me I could find him here. So I thought I'd come down to see him. And as long as I'm here, I might as well have a chat with you and maybe pick up some goodies. Oh, what are you looking for? Oh, some potatoes, pumpkins, and do you still sell cords of wood? Sure do. Can you squeeze lunch in? Okay, what's that? Sure do.
Sure do.
True, dude.
Sure,
Yeah,
right.
that's-
What is that? What technique is the author using there?
Telling him he's a.
Well, implying to us, readers, what they sound like in real life.
Yeah.
So instead of putting sure, S-U-R-E, she spelled it the way it sounds. That's a dialect, and that helps us understand who the character really is.
Yeah.
She nodded, glancing at her watch. I've got to be back at school in 45 minutes, so it'll have to be fast. It's ready right now, Mr. H said, turning and putting an arm around her shoulder. Sean, put him back in his stall and take off his halter before you come up for lunch. Yes, sir, I mumbled. Man, I had thought Monday's lunch was awkward. Now I was going to have to eat lunch with my English teacher. My stomach had been rumbling before, but this had made me lose my appetite. Why?
I lost my English teacher.
Gee, thanks. So he was a little nervous. He was a little nervous about being awkward, maybe? You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
I took my time feeding Nicker once I had him back in the stall, and I made sure I put his halter on a hook just outside his hall door before I left. Then I went straight to the bathroom to wash up before presenting myself in the kitchen. Oh, what do we learn there that he...
He learned not to sit down before washing.
Yeah, he learned that, and what else did he learn? 2 little lessons he learned that he just told us that he learned.
Can I have his halter?
Yeah, put your stuff back before, when you're done with it, put it back where it belongs, and wash up before you come to the kitchen table. When I was in the bathroom, I heard Mr. H talking to Mrs. Walker. Because the heating ducts went from the bathroom to the kitchen, I could hear everything just like they were in the same room with me. Anybody have a house like that?
I did.
Upstairs and downstairs.
Where you can hear exactly what they're saying,
Go
like
to
4
McDonald's
rooms
like
away?
that.
I
The
can't
McDonald's is like that.
You think so?
It's
Sometimes it's kind of fun if you can do that. I had a house like that. So I crouched down and put my ear to the vent. So I took 4 years off to start my family, and I finally started working full-time this year. How do you like it? Oh, I love it. Sometimes I feel guilty about leaving the 2 little guys with the sitter all day, but Tom's company shut down last year, and his new job isn't paying as well, so there's really no choice. At least I'm doing a job I enjoy. I can see you being a good teacher. You always had good hands with the foals. Mrs. Walker laughed. Yes, but I can't use my hands on these foals, which is too bad because there are times... I could hear Mr. H chuckle. I'm sure there are. He hesitated. How is Sean doing? She sighed, and I could just picture her shaking her head. He has his moments. I know he could do really well, but honestly, I'm not sure he wants to make the choice to succeed. I'm really glad you've got him for a little while, Dave. Maybe this is the right time in his life, a time when someone like you could really make a difference. He doesn't get much guidance at home, from what I understand. Have you talked to him much about his home life? No, he still shuts himself off from me rather quickly. I'm afraid to push with him. He's borderline in my class right now, and I guess I'd rather he stay borderline for a while longer instead of risking the push now. I'm afraid that might shut him off from me entirely. In fact, I was hoping we could get together and figure out the best way to help him after he spent his week here. Okay, what's going on between them?
We're talking about him.
Yeah, but more than that, look underneath. What's really going on in their heads and their hearts?
They care. They don't want anything to happen.
Yeah, they care. They don't want anything to happen to them. What are they? They're teaming up. And all of you guys have people in your lives that are like that. Even if sometimes you don't think so. Your teachers, we do get together and say, hey, what do you know about so-and-so that could help me in my room? Or is there something I can do to help in your room? Because last year I had him and and these are some things that worked for me, so we can really, you know, or I know his family, or I know her family, and maybe we could do this. You really, even though you may not see it, there are people here that are doing that for you. And it's really important for me that you know that. That you know that you have teachers here caring for you like that. I felt my face get red. They were talking about me like I was some sort of project. Do you feel that way? That kind of like a project? Or do you think it's more personal?
I think it's more personal.
Okay, why?
I don't know. I feel the teachers really shouldn't be getting, well, they can get in our business, but when it's something really hard to talk about and you don't want to talk about it, I feel that they shouldn't really get in kids' business. Well, they have a right to. I mean,
Well,
I guess they're taught in training or whatever to, like my grandma was a nurse for however some odd years, and if she saw evidence of a kid being beat, then she would.
there are rules that we have to follow when it comes to something like that, mandatory reporting.
But
Ginger talked to me about that last year.
About issues like that she would maybe have to, he or she would have to report. Because we are mandatory reporters when it comes to abuse or someone being in danger. But when you say they shouldn't cry, was Mrs. Walker crying?
no, she wasn't crying.
Yeah.
They just,
But some can.
yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to go downstairs and then walk out, but I couldn't tear myself away from the vent. What's he like at school? How do you mean? Well, what's he like with the other kids? I've heard so much talk about these gangs, and I guess the way he presents himself makes me wonder. Well, he's not in a gang. This is my first year at the school, but my understanding from talking to other teachers is that a gang did try to recruit him, but he resisted. What's that tell us about him? And kind of that we already know.
He made a good choice.
Okay, he made a good choice. He doesn't like gangs. He's more of a loner, an individual. Yeah.
Does it follow others?
Doesn't follow others as well, yeah. According to what I've heard, there was a stretch of a few months when every time he was healthy enough to come to school, he got into a fight. A couple of times he was beaten so badly he couldn't even come to school. What can we question there and infer?
They've been beat pretty bad.
Okay. By whom?
Mother.
By his mother or a student. Can we question here? She's kind of implying that he got beat up by other students, right?
Yeah.
Does she know about his mom?
No.
No. Why does she not know about his mom?
Because he didn't tell her.
Yeah, he has been keeping it. So maybe some of these times when she thinks he was in a fight at school, maybe it was really a fight at home. But he never gave in, huh? I thought I could actually hear a smile in his voice. No, he never did. She paused for a minute, then said in a low voice, I'm not convinced that all of his bruises come from his peers. Ah, she's catching on. Mr. Hassler let out a soft whistle. Have you reported that? No, she said soberly. According to the other teachers, the social workers have been called before, and he always confirms his mother's story. Why would he do that?
Because he doesn't want to get hurt again.
He doesn't
He's
want to
scared.
go live with his dad or go into a foster home.
Well, he doesn't want, he might have a fear of his mom coming.
Well, if he went to the foster home, Mr. Hassler might.
By the doctor.
Okay, now,
Mr.
has he
Hessler
had
didn't
that?
know him.
Yeah, has he had that opportunity or been shown the chance of that ever before?
No.
No, not until just now. Good ideas, though. What about his father? Well, our principal said he left town a while ago. No one in the school had had any contact with him until last week. I've talked to Dr. Bushel quite a bit about Sean. He thinks Sean was shaken up when his dad actually showed up on Friday. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Shaken up when my mom shows up.
Yeah. And how do we know he was shaken up? What did he do?
He walked out the room.
Yeah, he walked out of the room and he didn't even, he just turned his back and walked. Well, maybe Sean's ready to face some of the truths about his parents now. Maybe one more call to the social worker is what it'll take. Maybe, Mrs. Walker agreed. If I see anything else suspicious, I'll call. I'm tempted to call now, but I'll wait and talk to Sean. Maybe that's the best way to go. How would you summarize Mr. H's attitude right now and his thoughts, what he's thinking about Sean.
Maybe pull you out of it.
That maybe he'll get what out of it?
What happened?
Oh, that maybe he can get, but why? Why would he want to get out of it what happened?
So
So he doesn't have to go back and live with his mom and have that happen again?
Yeah, so what does that imply about Mr. Hassler?
He cares.
He cares, he's trying, he's, not only that he cares, but now he's starting to actually care so much that he's being active, proactive about protecting Sean. They were suddenly quiet. I broke out in a sweat. Sean! I jumped. Sean! Mr. H shouted again. Where is that boy? I thought I heard him come in the house 10 minutes ago. Sean! Coming! I called back. I almost left the bathroom without washing my hands. I didn't want to look at either of them when I entered the room, but I knew that would give me away. I had to act normal, even though I was fuming. How dare they sit and analyze me? Were they sitting and analyzing him? Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of, but for the reason of trying to help. The four of us sat down to lunch, but the conversation was mainly between Mr. H and Mrs. Walker. She had a lot to tell him about her life, a lot that I really didn't want to hear. It's easier to think of your teachers just living in the classroom. To think of them having hopes and fears and dreams that exist outside of the school just isn't natural. Would you guys agree, or do you like knowing those little bits of human?
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't? Yes, you do?
I like to know some dirt about my teachers, too. They hear a lot of stuff about us.
Small town. Part of that. I concentrated on eating and hoped they wouldn't ask me a question or anything. I asked for another biscuit and more strawberry preserves. Then Mr. H informed me his strawberries were the best because of his special fertilizer. He and James had a good laugh at my expense, but I acted like I didn't get the joke and just kept on eating. About halfway through lunch, Mrs. Walker turned to me. Sean, I brought some notes and an example of a hero paper for you to use. They're in the kitchen. Have you started your paper yet? No. Why not? Mr. Hassler demanded. I've been busy. I shrugged. I'll get it done by Monday. He'll have it in, Michelle. I'll see to it. I glared at him. None of your business whether I get it done or not. He glared back at me. Do you use that tone of voice with your parents? Of course I do. Why shouldn't I? Well, you're not going to use that tone with me ever again. When somebody looks out for you and helps you out, you treat them with kindness and respect. I looked down at my plate. Apologize to Mrs. Walker. Was that good of him to do?
No.
Good of Mr. Hassler.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Do you think he'd ever really been taught that from his mother? No. And sometimes we learn how to treat other people from the way we're treated in our family. And sometimes it takes someone from the outside to say, whoa, hey, wait a minute. You need to raise your level of respect. What for? He didn't reply. He just gave me a mean look. I looked at Mrs. Walker. I'd apologize to you, but since I have no idea why, it wouldn't mean anything, and there really wouldn't be any point to it. I wasn't sure, but it looked like she was trying not to smile. I think Dave wanted you to apologize for your tone, because by telling him it was none of his business in front of me, you are saying that you don't care what I think. Oh, sorry. I kept my eyes on my plate. I let my knife and fork drop onto the plate with a clank and pushed it away from me. There was an uncomfortable silence for a moment. Then Mr. Hassler asked, "What's this assignment?" Mrs. Walker looked at me with something close to sympathy. They're writing a formal paper, minimum of 2 pages, in ink, single side of loose leaf paper. They're supposed to tell about their heroes. Who are they? Why are they heroes? What makes them important? What are their physical and mental qualities? Sounds like quite an assignment. Are you sure it can be done in 2 pages? She smiled. 2 pages at the minimum. I would always accept a longer paper if a student went above and beyond the call of duty. She turned to me. Has he told you about the time he went above and beyond the call of duty? Who's she talking about? Who's she talking about?
Mr. Hassler.
Yeah, Mr. Hassler. I shook my head. Well, she said, standing up, I have to get back to class, and I'm sure Dave's got a lot of work for your enjoyment this afternoon. But before you leave this job, make him tell you the story. She gave Dave a hug and a kiss on the cheek as she opened the door for him. It's a great story, Sean, and it might even help you write your paper. What do you think it is?
About her.
It might be about her?
About Mr. Hassler.
Okay, what do you think Mr. Hassler's story would be?
Oh, he probably was like this. He was with her.
Oh. Anybody else? That's a good prediction. Anybody else predict what his story about a hero is? It said going beyond the call of duty. What do you think? I'm not going to ask Austin. He's way far ahead. Well, when she got to her car, she turned around and called, "I'll have Tom pick up some more vegetables when he comes to get the wood next week." "Oh, that'll be fine," Mr. H called back. As Mrs. Walker drove down the driveway, Mr. H turned to me. "I'll go do the dishes. You can go help James unload the feed in the barn. And when that's done, go ahead and finish fertilizing the vegetable garden. We'll do the cornfield tomorrow." Is he getting in the habit of doing this good hard work? Yeah. Okay, we've got 7 minutes. No, 5 minutes. Right on
5
time.
minutes.
Okay, so we've got 5 minutes. I want you to think about, we're returning to our idea of choices. And our hot question today, what choices of others have influenced Sean's life? Now, what choices of others are influencing his life? Okay, close the book. What choices of others are influencing his life now?
Mr. Hassler's.
Okay, Mr. Hassler's choice to do what?
Probably stay with him.
Have him stay with him, yeah. Okay, and what were you saying? Okay. What other choices? What do you think? Where's the mom in all of this?
Somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah, we don't know. What's that?
Where she always is, not being there.
Not being there, yeah. How is that affecting his life right now?
Helping him.
Okay, badly in helping him. Explain, both of you explain.
Not really.
Can you, Austin, can you see why Logan says it's actually helping him? Okay, explain, Logan.
Helping him because she's not there with him and not like
beat him up.
beating him. Yeah, like not beating him and abusing him.
And because she wasn't there to get a hold of to find out if he could stay there,
Yeah, she probably would have said no and he would have came home.
could be. So her
There
absence,
goes the nail.
her absence is in a way helping him right now. But how is it also hurting him, Austin?
Because the way she treats him, like, gives him a bad idea of the people.
Yeah. He has a bad idea of
of.
moms, probably, right?
He probably thinks since she probably knows that he's there and she might get him in trouble or something.
Okay, could be. Do you think she knows where he is?
Maybe.
Or do you think she's thinking, oh, he's out like he always is? Could be. Yeah, with a friend.
Look at my dates on this one.
Yeah. Because you need to put it, I was mentioning that you needed to put it on. Okay, you've got about 3 minutes if you want to jot down some notes on your summary.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Until I have the rest of the script.